Judge Sirkovich looked at her and said, well, I want to know why you won't admit that you're a lesbian. She shares a home with another woman. And she said, well, I'm not a lesbian. I've known this woman for many, many years, and I'm pretty confident she's not a lesbian. But if she was, why does that make any difference? And Judge Sirkovich said, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And so because you won't tell me the truth, and you keep lying to me about being a lesbian, I'm not gonna let you have your kids back.
She made all of these remarks referring to assumptions about my sister's relationship and decided that she was going to hold the children in custody, regardless of the facts that were proven in the court. The facts that she chose were facts that she picked up from the state or prosecution, and she used those as sound bites to tailor around her personal message.
Judge Sirkovich was one of the worst judges. Nobody wanted to be in her court. What we knew her as was the baby eater. Sirkovich would open cases on children who came in, if a mother came in, or she was an unwed mother with a small child, or an underage mother. The judge would see fit to open up a case right then and there in the courtroom and have that child removed from the mother's care.
My first court date, the judge asked me if I needed a lawyer. I told her no, because what do I need a lawyer for if I'm just missing school? Because I don't have a criminal record, I've never been in trouble, nothing like that. When I said no, my mom tried to chime in like, actually she does need one, and the judge told her she wasn't talking to her, she was talking to me, and she basically needed to be quiet if she wanted to stay in the courtroom. So I represented myself through the whole court process at 15. She read the capstone review, and they basically said they didn't believe that I didn't have a drug problem, even though I never failed a drug test. And they said that they thought my mom was abusive, and so she said she was sending me to a group home. I didn't get a chance to talk or plead my case or anything. I was actually scared because I've never been away from my mom, ever.
I mean, I always thought, you're innocent until proven guilty. I got my son taken away from me after what 2 other judges said, this is what should be, without even speaking to me. She made a life-changing decision.
It just seemed capricious and unfair and bullying to make a judgment that's going to affect somebody's life without hearing all the facts.
She told me to shut up, which I don't blame her for saying that. But I do blame her for keeping it out of the transcript. She told my wife to be quiet and then kept that out of the transcript.
The transcript of what happened after the closing of the proceeding between my sister and the judge was completely altered. She put words in our mouths. She even put language in there that I don't use, that my wife doesn't use. To justify the means for pressing the duress button, she made sure she altered those documents and said what she wanted to say to prove her case.
Looking back on it, it was kind of like she had already made up her mind what type of person my mom was when we first walked in there. Like, in her mind, she thought that my mom's a single parent and she's struggling and we're in dire need and she needs to save us, basically, and that wasn't the case.
When you throw a drowning family a brick, all you're going to do is send them to the bottom. These families don't need the full weight of the law.
When she makes these decisions, she's not making these decisions bringing all those things to the table from my experience. Every time I've seen her, it's been a decision based on how she felt that day.
Just know that Judge Sirkovich is not a fair judge. It depends on the day, the mood she's in, and I feel bad for anybody that gets stuck in her court system.
Anybody that does not support her views, she seems to lash out at, and those people certainly have issues with government authorities, the police coming to their door, asking about their children, asking about incidents that never occurred.
To be in your own home and watch a Douglas County sheriff come into your home and escort your child out of your home is a gut-wrenching experience for any family. This wasn't a lawful removal based on due process of law. This was a sanctioned kidnapping orchestrated by a vengeful judge that I had irritated in her courtroom for standing up for my rights and the rights of my family.
That's what I would call it, judicial harassment, and it's always from an anonymous source that these issues come up.
In my opinion, Judge Sirkovich directed this to prove her point, that she was going to be in charge, she was going to do this irregardless of the law or irregardless of anything else. she was going to have my son removed from my home, whether it was justified or not.
This is my son, Reed Paulson. He committed suicide on August 5th, 2015. He's gone too early. And I really think that Judge Cerkovich made decisions that were so inappropriate, so ill-informed, and this is what happens. And I just pray that she's out of there, because there's so many families that have been affected by her.
As a veteran, I see the violation of the Constitution. I see those things that veterans have given their lives to protect, and people have to take a stance saying, Judge Cerkovich or Judge whoever, you are not going to do this because I know what my constitutional rights are. A violation is a violation. And the best thing that anybody can do for a veteran, rather than say thank you for your service, is to show them that you understand what the Constitution says, that you are willing to protect your own rights, that you're willing to go to the polls on November 8th and vote and do things and stand up against dishonesty and corruption and violation of your rights, regardless of how small or how large they are.
The judge is supposed to have certain standards, and if we don't know what those standards are, then we tend to accept how we get treated, and we think there's no voice. The judge can say what they want, do what they want, get away with what they want, but obviously that's not true, and there are standards and there are ratings, and if we could actually stand on those things and remove people who don't belong, that would be even greater.